Come here, let's do a little audio quiz. What game is this sound from? That's right, that's the spike diffusal sound from Valorant. Very nice, that's the Fortnite shield potion sound. Okay, here's the last one, but you have to listen very, very carefully.
Defeat.
Correct! That's the sound you hear over and over every night, isn't it? Don't lie to me, I know your secrets. The utilization of sound in games has been so ingrained in us gamers that people nowadays rarely give the importance to how that sound is actually used. And even more specifically, how these games use sound to communicate to a player that an action they took had some kind of consequence. And this can range from a player's ability connecting with the target, from the target actually dying to said ability. It's also important to note that the misutilization of audio in games can lead to very frustrating, confusing, and overall terrible gaming experiences, so it is definitely something that the developers have to put a lot of thought into. To exemplify, let's take a look at one of gaming's most famous audio cues, which is the headshot. Without having any sort of audio distinction, we may have situations like this. Or like this. It's odd, isn't it? Not being able to tell what type of shot you've landed on your opponent. That is, of course, if you are familiar with hitting headshots, which I know for some of you might be a little bit of a problem.
He's so slim, so fragile, as here it looks like Victor's made a meal of it!
Oh my god!
And in these games where the gameplay is exceedingly fast, it is so important to have these audio cues be precise, because these audio cues are exactly what players use to make those split-second decisions. And even for the audience, they require clear audio to understand what they're watching as well. But for those of you with an extra buck to spend, it is hard to miss those glistening and beautiful skins that these developers put in your shop. In Valorant, have you noticed that no matter how fancy that brand new skin of yours is, you can still tell what type of gun you're shooting? This is of course a very conscious decision from the developers, as they want players to immediately know what type of gun they picked up from the floor or purchased, from both the shape of the gun, but also the sound that the gun produces. Here are some examples of this in action. And for even further clarity, all the special effects on these skins are only client-side, meaning that only the person owning and using the skin can actually see them. This is incredibly unfortunate news for all the e-couples on Valorant, as no, they will not be able to tell that you guys are matching skins. At least not just from the sound, because those names will definitely give you away. But what happens in games where each character has a different gun? Let's take Overwatch 2 for example, a game where instead of buying guns, you simply pick out heroes that each have their own moveset with abilities and of course different guns. In Valorant, until you actually visually see an agent or they use an ability that is specifically to them, you will not be able to tell who exactly they are, since all the agents have the exact same footstep sounds. But in Overwatch, the positioning and presence of every hero when it comes to sound is extremely distinct. Let's take tanks in Overwatch for example. These guys are the big sponges of the team, absorbing all the damage that is coming towards their team, and they all take very big and loud steps that allows players to tell exactly who they are without even seeing them. And even within the Overwatch roles, there's still a myriad of differences. Let's take the lovely role of the DPS, so our damage heroes in Overwatch, and how you can discern their walking sounds from one another. Let's take a listen. Cassidy's boots click as he walks like a typical cowboy. Junkrat's peg leg and uneven walking rhythm make him very easy to spot. Widowmaker uses unique sounding high heels, and Bastion sounds like a heavy machine walking around. And specifically in these games where the gameplay is so fast-paced, being able to pick up on those audio cues is the absolute key to victory. But beyond the character and the gun sounds, which do make games extremely clear for both people playing and the spectators, there are also games like Valorant that do utilize sound as key game mechanics. Here are some examples. Blinds that function as near sights, like Reyna's blind, Omen's blind, or Fate ult, completely cut the sound from the player's perspective. Yoru was able to fake a teleportation sound to confuse his enemies. Deadlock has a sonic sensor which concusses enemy players if it hears sound. And when enemies walk through Cypher's cage, they also make an audible sound. And even the maps in Valorant have very key audio cues to them that players must keep in mind while playing. For example, players shooting down the breakable doors on a map like Lotus, players opening and closing doors on Ascent, players taking the teleporter on Bind, and people using the ropes on Icebox. These all make use of the player's sound in one way or another and are used as key game mechanics that every single player must keep in mind while going through combat. Furthermore, another very important topic is how these games discern ultimate voice lines. From the way the voice acting is made to the sound effects accompanying the voice line, both Valorant and Overwatch put a lot of emphasis on how ultimate voice lines are perceived in game. This is because ultimates are so incredibly impactful and can make or break rounds or full games. That is why each single hero and agent has a very distinct voice line that allows any player to know when that ult has been activated from anywhere they are at. In conclusion, those ears of yours are one of your most important organs while playing these games that deserve to hear proper sound design and not some musty basement dweller telling you to quit the game, among other worse things.
Missile on ramp! Missile on ramp!
And I hope that next time you play your favorite game, you pay attention to the key differences in audio, since developers take a lot of time putting these things together and there's a lot of care put into all of it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, remain hardstuck.